I'd like to show you another nice application of when you might want to use the distance formula. Now, before you view this lecture, make sure that you can solve a quadratic equation. Okay, so you might want to go back and review some of your pre-calculus material. Certainly you can come into Polya and you can ask the helpers there for assistance. But you have to be familiar with the quadratic equation and the quadratic formula. Okay? All right, let's recall the distance formula. Remember, we defined this earlier. The distance between 2 points is the square root of the difference between the x value squared plus the difference between the y value squared. Now notice, if we square both sides of this equation, the square root will disappear on the right, and we're left with d squared on the left. Okay? So let's keep that in mind. And here's a nice little example. It says, find all values of x such that the distance from the point x, -1, to 2, 5 is 10. Now, it looks a little complicated, so let's try to draw ourselves a little picture. So let's give a Cartesian coordinate system here. All right, let's plot the point 2, 5, so maybe somewhere up here. Okay? Now, it says find all values of x such that the distance between this point, x, and -1, so all we really know is that it has a y-coordinate of -1. Okay? So we know that this point must lie somewhere on this imaginary horizontal line. Okay? Any point on this line will have a y value of -1, right? So we want to find all x coordinates such that the distance between our point x -1 and 2, 5 is 10. That's what the problem says. You might want to rewind this and view this again, okay? But this is what our problem says. Okay, so we want to find these x values. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, really what it's saying is find the distance between these 2 points such that the distance is 10. And I'm going to go ahead and use this version of our distance formula. Okay? So it says that d squared, that's our 10. I'll write it right here, and I'll move down. So 10 squared must equal the difference in the x values, so x minus 2 squared, plus the difference in the y values, -1 minus 5 squared. Okay, so let me write that again, a little bit larger. So again, I'm going to take the distance between those 2 points, and I know it has to be 10. So 10 squared must equal x minus 2 squared plus -1 minus 5. And let's attempt to solve for x. Okay? So let's square everything. X minus 2 squared, remember, you have to FOIL this binomial out. X squared minus 4x plus 4. -1 minus 5 is -6 squared. It's 36. And I want to simplify. Let's see, we get plus 40. Let's set everything equal to 0. So I'll subtract 100. And I'll get x squared minus 4x minus 60 equals 0. Now I said earlier that you have to be familiar with the quadratic equation and how to solve it. Well, here's a quadratic equation. It's got an x squared in it. It's got a middle term with x to the first and a constant. That's a quadratic. Now we can solve a quadratic several ways. We could solve by factoring if it factors, completing the square. You could do a quadratic formula. Again, you might want to, you might even want to look at some of the Math 143 video lectures to help you. They do have lectures on how to solve quadratics. Okay, so let's try to solve this thing. several ways that we can attack this problem. I like to complete the square, so there's a good review of complete the square. Okay, again, you could use quadratic formula if you like. In order to complete the square, let's see what I have to do. I have to add half of the middle term squared to both sides. Okay, and this will factor. And then we'll solve from there. X minus 2 is equal to plus or minus 8. Okay? So x equals, I'll move the 2 over, 2 plus or minus 8. So x is equal to 2 plus 8, which is 10, or x is equal to 2 minus 8, which is negative 6. Again, if this is not familiar to you, try the quadratic formula. That will certainly give you the same answer. Or try to factor. It will also factor. Okay? Let's see what we've done. We've solved for x, and we've got 10 and negative 6. That means that the 2 points that are 10 units away from this point is the point x equals 10. Okay? And x could also equal negative 6.